Magazine, Cisco Brewers, and Triple Eight Distillery helped make this possible and provide refreshments and publicity. Now I'd like to introduce and welcome Tim Fallon, this evening's speaker. Tim grew up sailing Beetle cats in Wild Harbor Yacht Club. He grew up sailing those Beetle cats out of Wild Harbor Yacht Club on Buzzards Bay. He later went on to an active Smyra junior racing career in 420s, winning the double-handed junior nationals, the Bemis Trophy. And hold your applause, there's more. Hold on for this. That was followed by 4 years at Tufts University. Tim earned a Master's of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering and 2 college sailing championships. After that, wait, there's more. He got seriously involved with team racing. On top of 11 straight podium finishes at U.S. Sailing's Team Race National Championship for the Hinman Trophy, Tim represented the United States at 4 Team Race World Championships. He got second place twice, and twice was the world champion, taking home gold medals. At the same time, Tim was the helm for Sewanaka Corinthian Yacht Club's British American Cup squad and won 4 straight matches starting in 2001 and again in 2012. More recently, Tim's gone back to his catboat roots, and he had a large Carvel-planked Cape Cod catboat commissioned in 2006 for cruising and occasional classic yacht racing. Tim currently is employed by TPI in Warren, Rhode Island, and he lives in Bristol with his wife Karen and their son Benjamin, and you can often see them with their dog on board the boat that he will be talking about this evening. And I would just want to add a quick commentary that he invited me to sail with him a couple of years ago, and I jumped at the offer because I think it's a really neat boat, and I've known Tim and raced against him for a long time, and not many of my fiberglass boat racing friends are now into wooden boats, so I said that'll be great. Tim, I'll come on out and meet you in Chatham. And the event was a race from Chatham against the other giant catboat that was up here that summer, Silent Maid, and we were going to race here to Bristol. And the forecast, as it turned out in late August, was a real nor'easter. 25, 30 knots, gusting 35, maybe 40 knots. And that was the forecast for our race. So the other boat packed it in. They said, no, that's too much for us. We're not going to go overnight and race to Bristol in this crazy race. Well, we looked at each other, and Tim said, what do you guys want to do? And we said, well, we're all here anyway, right? I mean, let's go. So we headed on out of Chatham that day, and the forecast was for the cut to start closing out later that afternoon as the gale built. So we were weaving our way out of Chatham. It's a more or less unmarked channel. You sort of look and see where the waves aren't breaking as badly as everywhere else, and you head for that. That's the deep water, you presume, and in a catboat, if you hit, you just pull the centerboard up and keep trying to make your way to weather. And about now, you can imagine I had some butterflies in my stomach, and Tim said, hey, this is where we saw a great white shark when we were coming in, so keep your eyes open. So there we were, beating our way out the cut, trying not to think about sharks, and we just had cleared the outer line of breakers, and Karen looked over and said, oh, I think that's a fin right there, in towards the beach. And Tim said, great, hold on, we're going over to check it out. He put the helm hard over, and we headed right back into the surf line that we had just cleared out to go see if this was or was not a shark. It turned out it was a humpback whale, but that was the beginning of our overnight sail through a gale. And I'm going to turn over to Tim. Please give him a warm round of applause.
All right, we're going to start with a little video here. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out on such a cold night. Nice night to talk about sailing. When Richard first asked if I'd be interested in coming out to speak at the Herreshoff Museum, my first thought was, yeah, absolutely. That sounds wonderful. I'd love to tell this story. But my second thought was, gee, I'm going to feel like a real heretic coming here to the Herreshoff Museum to talk about a C.C. Hanley designed catboat. You see, many of you are probably unaware that Charles Hanley and Nat Herreshoff were rival yacht designers, and on all accounts they were polar opposites. Hanley, on the one hand, was this rule of thumb designer. He would carve a half model and build his boats off of that. Nat Herreshoff was then leading the charge of the scientific approach to naval architecture at the time. Hanley's boats, on the one hand, were purely centerboard shoal draft boats, and although the Herreshoffs did everything, a lot of their boats were deep keel boats suited for the deep water that we have here in Narragansett Bay. And in their personal lives, Hanley was a real hobnobber. He ended up enjoying himself and with his rich and famous clients, and Captain Nat not so much. Hanley was a heavy drinker. One other boat builder called him a heavy boozer, whereas Nat Herreshoff himself was a teetotaler. And in their family lives, Nat Herreshoff was a devoted husband and family man, whereas Hanley, he actually ends up naming his live-in housekeeper as his heir, not his then estranged wife. But despite the differences, both men have been hailed as wizards in the realm of yacht design. Nat Herreshoff reportedly said that Hanley was the toughest nut he had to crack. I think it's a well-put quote coming from Captain Nat, giving both a huge compliment and perhaps a crack at Hanley's personality all in one. Well, tonight I hope to enlighten you about catboats and Charles Hanley and take you through the story of recreating perhaps one of the fastest catboats ever built.